class demonstrations. Know that even though they're showing up in our Facebook feed as live, all of our class demos have been pre-recorded. If you would like us to slow down, what I suggest you do is once this video is shown live, it will be archived in this group indefinitely. At that point, you're always welcome to come back and watch the video, push pause, push play, and then craft along at your leisure. The schedule lists all of the demos and their exact time of when they'll start. I would suggest that you have the kit ready, that way you're ready to go as soon as the demonstration starts. So we are going to kick off with this adorable Grinchmas page. So go ahead and pull out your kit, all of your basic supplies, and any of the Powerpuff inks that you might want to add to this page. As with all of our kits, they all come with this color handout of exactly what the finished pages look like, and they come with really detailed written instructions. So you're welcome to follow along with the written instructions or along with me. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to start with the left page here, and we're going to start with the background sheet of that 12 by 12 Christmas tree paper. I've already cut off the barcode strip, but that's the first thing you're going to need to do. You're going to need to cut off that little strip that was at the bottom there, just like that. Don't you love when they put this extra little pattern kind of on that strip? It's great. You can save that and you can put it on another page later or find a use for it here. I'm just going to go ahead and stick it down here for now. I really love how they picked up the pink with the blue and the red in this page. To me, that was very Seussian and worked perfectly for our Grinchmas page. All right, in your packet, you also have 2 sheets of this red, the 12 by 12 red pattern paper that looks like this. For this one here, we need to cut it down. So it's currently 12 by 12, but we need to cut it at 10 inches. So 10 inches, and we're just gonna snip that off there. So we have a sheet now that is 10 by 12. And we're going to adhere it, and we're going to adhere it flush to our left edge, to our right edge here. If you really love this paper and maybe you want to use it on another page, you want to stretch this out and make it 4, you could actually cut a square out of it here because we're going to cover up 10 inches of it. So you always could cut out a little piece here, that way your page wouldn't be so bulky, and you can use this to coordinate on another page as well. I am just going to go ahead and adhere it just as it is. Just like so. And when we adhere it, we want it flush to the top, to the right, and to the bottom. So I'm going to put it down just like that. All right, now also in your kit, you have some pink glimmer paper that it's already cut to size. Now notice that you do have 2 pieces that are very, very similar in size. So we want to make sure that we have the right one. So we want the one that's 1 1/4. So it's just a little bit thinner than this one over here. So we want the one, again, that's just slightly thinner. Don't you just love the sheen of that glimmer paper? I tell you, I really didn't think of myself as a girly girl and why would I need glimmer paper? But I've been completely obsessed with the My Colors glimmer paper. All right, when we adhere it, my hat keeps hitting the camera. I'm obviously not used to teaching in costume. It's probably hard to take me seriously. Like, how in the world can she be an expert dressed like that? When we adhere it, we're going to adhere it slightly different than what the instructions say here. I'm going to adhere it directly onto the red paper and flush to its left edge. So it's going to go on top of the red paper and flush to its left edge, just like that. All right, then when I put this next piece down, we do have this stripe piece that's going to go there in the center. If you've taken my classes before or put my kits together, you know that I absolutely love stripes. To me, you can base an entire layout on just a little piece of striped paper, because we can take all of the colors that are in this stripe and use them as our inspiration for the rest of our page. So I have started with this stripe, and I really love how it had the reds and the greens and the pink that coordinates with this perfectly. These are actually two separate companies here, but I love how it just all blends together. All right, for our next step, we do have the photo mats. I'm going to go ahead and cut them exactly as the sample there, but we will give you a couple sheets of the 12 by 12 dark green cardstock. These are for your photo mats, so you're welcome to cut them however best fits your photos. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them just like the sample, and we do give you those measurements if you want it to be exact. So I'm going to go ahead and cut our first one here, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Kind of my rule of thumb is whatever size photo it is, I go 1/4 of an inch bigger. So it's, you know, maybe you like to double mat, maybe you like to triple mat. But we're just going to go ahead and single mat all 3 of these photos. If you look at the sample here, you will notice that there is a white paper. So if you look here, there's this white that says 4 by 4 photo. Those will not be white mats. That will actually be the photo itself. So there won't be the white. Again, this would signify the actual photo. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and adhere in just like the sample. This is the canvas collection from My Colors. Obviously, we are their #1 fans. We carry the canvas collection, the embossed dot collection, and the glimmer collection. The only one that we don't carry is their non-textured, their smooth cardstock. Hint, hint. It's the only one we don't carry yet. But I'm telling you, you're gonna just fall in love with that collection as well. All right, and again, you're gonna put these however it best fits your photos, but I'm gonna go ahead and just stick them just like the sample. And the reason why I went a little bit darker here is our photo mat, because I really wanted to draw the eye to the photos. Obviously, all of this stuff is pretty. We want the focus to remain on our photos. So I went a little darker for the mat to be more dramatic and really focus your eye right there, exactly where it should be. In your packet, you have 2 separate baggies. We bag all of the die cuts for one side in one baggie, all of the die cuts for the other side in a different baggie. That way you can kind of keep all of those straight, because there's a lot of little pieces that's going to go into these die cuts here. So the first thing I'm going to pull out is this garland, and then I'm going to leave everything else in that baggie. So we're going to get all of these circles, and if you notice, the red is from the embossed dot collection. So when I was telling you, one of the collections that we carry is the embossed dot. That red shows you that embossing there. For the first step, we just want to adhere the gray to that seafoam color. For that, I'm going to use my liquid glue. Get that a little open there. Alrighty, just like so. Okay, it doesn't need a ton. We're going to give it just enough to make sure that it sticks down and adhere those 2 layers together. All right, I'm going to use my tweezers for this next piece. I don't know how anyone scraps without a pair of tweezers. So I'm going to use this to pick up all of these little pieces. So we're going to start with the yellow. So in order for all of these to kind of line up, you need to make sure that you start with the yellow. So we're just one by one going to adhere all of those pieces. Since all of these are all pretty tiny, what I'm actually going to do to make it a little quicker here, I'm going to put a little puddle of my glue there. And then as I pick up one of the die cuts, I am going to just dab it loosely in that glue and adhere it down. It just makes it go just a little quicker when you have the little pieces like this. You just have to make sure that you're working with a glue that doesn't dry so quick that that puddle obviously would all be dry by the time you got to use it. So we're just going to keep going every other color till we get all the way around our garland. Now I haven't inked any of these yet, but you are more than welcome to ink each of those individually if you would like to. And what I mean by that is by going around the edges with our chalking inks. We have a lot of pieces still to ink on this page, so I just thought for these, it would be just easy enough just to kind of leave them as they are. I'm going to add just a little more glue there. I always start with too little versus too much. You can always add more. You can't put what's left over back in that tube, right? All right, again, just kind of working our way down. Do you remember the days when, well, two things. Maybe you were one that used to make popcorn garland. So you would pop all the popcorn and then put strings through it and then add that to your tree. Or how about, do you remember the days that we used tinsel? Oh my goodness, I remember a few years when we just would have tinsel all over the house when that was so popular. Now that we have a cat though, I can't even imagine having either the popcorn or the tinsel. Some years I can't even imagine having a tree with our cat. All right, so now that we have all of those garland pieces together, it's going to go across the page just like this here. Now, if you notice on mine, I wanted to make sure that it was easy to see Max. So if you want, you can kind of snip it off here so that it's aligned with this pink edge, or you can just go ahead and let it go across. I didn't want the yellow here to compete with the yellow in Max's antlers, so that's why I kind of snipped it off there. I might see if this can even be pulled up, and that could work as well. So if I work my tweezers underneath here, we might be able to slip that underneath. But for this sample, I actually just snipped it off, again, right where the garland met the pink. So I'm going to run my adhesive down the garland. I'm going to see if I can't get it underneath here. Sure we can. All right, so we'll do it just like that. No worries though if you're not able to get yours underneath. If you have a Cricut spatula, that might help as well if you want to slip that under. Or again, with the sample, I just snipped it there, or you can just let it go straight across. For our next pieces here, we have that Grinchmas title. Now, what I wanted to show you with this, if you have ever worked with a font that doesn't naturally have a shadow, there is a way to give it a shadow. However, it requires kind of an outside application, either on a computer or on your cell phone. But what you can do to kind of cheat the system, which is what we've done here, if you notice the two layers, the white and the black layer of our Grinch, are actually identical in size. So what we're going to do when we glue them is we're going to just slightly off-center them so that it looks like that. So it's not an exact shadow. We're just gonna offset those two pieces a little. So if you look at your kit and you're like, this is not a shadow, you're right, it is not a complete shadow. We are just gonna trick the system here a little bit. That's kind of the easiest way to fake having that matted appearance there. All right, and again, we're just gonna slightly offset them. Just like that. So if I put it there, maybe you can see it a little better, how they're just very tightly, very tiny little bit of an offset there. All right, when we go to adhere this down, we want to make sure that we can slip photos underneath later. So if you're putting this down without your photos, I would suggest just running your adhesive kind of along the bottom of every letter. That way your photos can slip underneath the top later at some point if that's what you decide to do. So I'm just going to run my adhesive just along the bottom edge. Just like this. By the way, for this particular font, if you wanted to maybe put your name in that title, or you wanted to do a different word that has that font, I got this font here from a website called dafont.com. So DAFONT.com. They have a ton of free fonts that you can download to your computer. And of course, any font that's on your computer can be cut on your die cutting machines. So this happens to be called Grinched, just how you think it would be, Grinched, Grinched. And that's the font I used for this here. All right, now we have our little Max that we're gonna put together. When you pull him out, be really, really careful. He's got so many tiny, tiny pieces, and his eyes specifically are really, really small. This is kind of another way that if you're going to do a class, a virtual class, and if you're one that likes to take a little extra time, especially with our kits, if you put these characters all together ahead of time, I think that you will notice you'll be able to keep up a little quicker, because these little characters tend to take so much extra time here. All right, this is where the inks came in for me. When I do my inks, I go direct from the ink pad to the die cut itself. So you can do it that way, or you can use a dauber. So what we would do in that instance is we would rub the dauber on the ink pad and then on the die cut. This gives it just a tad softer effect. So if you're starting with a brand new ink pad, you might want to consider that. Or if you feel like you're a little heavy-handed, I think the best thing to do is to use a dauber. But I'm going to use the pumpkin pie, so it's that orangish color. And I am going to just ink the bottom portion of this antler. So just where that antler would kind of meet the top of Max's head is where I inked. That's so thin, you really wouldn't want to go all the way around with your ink, because you would end up turning the whole thing orange and not be able to see any yellow at all, since it is such a thin die cut. All right, I'm gonna put it on this just to make sure that you can see it a little better of where I'm gluing. All right, so for Max's light tan portions of his body, we are going to ink all of those with Tiki. So any kind of lighter brown that you have would work as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink just kind of the top of his head. I'm going to go in here and ink around his nose. When I do that, I just kind of pull apart those two separate layers just a little, so that I don't get it on the bottom lip as well. And then I'm going to go here on his chest, just like that. For this back leg portion, I'm going to go where this portion of the body would kind of meet up to that arm. And this piece here, again, I'm going to go along the leg where it meets his body. So it's going to go like that. All right, we're going to go ahead and adhere all of these pieces down as well. So again, just a little bit of glue goes a long, long way. There we go. Okay, now we got his back leg. All right. And we have his front leg. Be sure you're watching all day long today. At some point today, you're going to learn why the Grinch has a pet. Why does this mean, hairy green creature have room in his tiny, tiny heart for Max? So be sure that you watch all day long as we give you all kinds of just fun tidbits and kind of some behind the scenes fun facts of the Dr. Seuss version of Grinch. All right, I didn't ink the darker brown pieces of Max, but if you wanted to, you are welcome to. I would just go just a shade darker than the tiki. My general rule of thumb is just to go 2 shades darker than the color of the paper, because since it is a chalking ink, it is going to dry just a tad lighter. All right, we have our tiny eyes. Our eyes are so, so tiny. See if I can remember which one goes which way. All right, so we have that one there. If you ever are wondering, usually the texture side is up with our die cuts. So that's how you know if you are holding it the correct way. All right. There's our adorable Max. I love Max. All right, obviously he's going to go there, but we do have that swirl die cut. I gotta see where I put it. There it is. You're probably yelling at me. It's right there. Alrighty, then in its own little baggie, we have all of our dimensional stickers, and they're in their own little baggie here. So go ahead and pull those out. So I'm going to just kind of lay them all there so that I have it spaced out exactly as I want them. Typically when I'm, putting this together for the first time, so unlike now we already have the sample to see what it's going to look like in the end, I will take a sticker sheet like this and I will cut them all apart. So that way I can keep moving them around my page until I find the exact location, and they're not sticky at that point. All right, so obviously we're gonna have this big green tree here, and then we're gonna have the white one here. So I think that spacing all looks good. I'm gonna start with the tree. So we'll put our tree around there. All right, I want the ear to kind of maybe go on top of the tree there. I'm just gonna lay him in position. Again, don't forget, this circular portion here is going to go onto a mat if you're doing it just like this. So you can put your photo on top, or you can just, only add adhesive just in the little bits. That way you can always slip photos underneath later. Okay. All right, now we need to glue our Max. We're You're gonna glue him like that. All right, and now we have one of our dimensional glitter stars here. And my little Max is barking. All right, voila, there is page 1. All right, so we're gonna put this aside now and we'll move on to page 2. This is what our page 2 finale is going to look like. So obviously we're gonna start with that red paper is our background. We need to cut the barcode strip off of this one. All of this Christmas paper, with the exception of our stripe, was all from My Mind's Eye. Obviously one of my very favorite companies. All right, so we start with that red as the background there. For the next thing, we're going to adhere this teal. So you have a teal paper like this. Some of you have a barcode, some not. So obviously, if you have that barcode strip, we're going to need to cut that off. So I'm going to cut that off first. Just like so. And again, see where it shows, has that fun little strip of a pattern there. This here, we're going to go ahead and adhere it just at its normal size. We want to make sure that we see just a tiny bit of red showing underneath. So when we adhere it, it's not going to go all the way to the base of the page. We're going to just show about 1/4 of an inch of a red underneath. I love this side too. Isn't that gorgeous? I truly, truly love all of their papers. All right, like that. Now we have that pink shimmer paper and we have that striped paper. So I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the back side of both of these pieces. Those are the next ones to go down. I tell you, I couldn't work without my ATG gun. It's probably my favorite dry adhesive. So when we adhere this piece here, I'm just going to slightly overlap that teal. Okay, just slightly overlap that edge there. And then when we adhere the stripe, I'm going to put it in the center of our pink. Okay, just like that. Alrighty, now in your bag of die cuts, you do have this yellow circle here. I'm going to go ahead and just pull it out. For the yellow circle, I did ink that as well. I inked it with pumpkin pie. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way around the edge. Now, how I have this final sample, you really only see this top portion here, but you might want to rearrange your photos so that they're maybe not in the exact location. So if you don't know exactly where your photos are going to go, I would go ahead and just ink all the way around that circle. Just like so. Again, it's that shimmer paper. I really especially love how the ink works with that shimmer paper. All right, and you have yet another full sheet of that green cardstock for your mats. I'm going to go ahead and cut them just like the sample here. Obviously, these are always just suggestions, and you can cut it any way that you please that works with your photos. I'm going to cut this big one to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. And then we have the two smaller mats, and they're each 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. All right. So So even if you are not going to put your photos down, you can go ahead and put all of these other pieces, you know, maybe in a similar spot down the center here, but you could maybe make this a couple horizontal photos. So you always could put this down and then add your photos later. Or obviously you can wait to see what photos that you're going to use. But what I'm going to do is, because if you notice, our yellow circle here is to kind of highlight our Grinch. So I'm going to lay everything out exactly how I want it to go, because the bottom layer is our yellow. So by laying kind of all of those out, I can pull this one up and know where to adhere that one. Another reason I have this yellow here, and I'll show you once I get this adhered down here. So it's gonna go about like that. If you look at our final sample, we have our 2 yellow pom-poms here. So when you have a dominant color like that, you really want to work in odd numbers. So we have the 2 yellows here. I really needed a third, and we form that visual triangle there that really, really accentuates all of our Grinch pieces in the center. I'm going to go ahead and add my photo mat. So I'm going to go and I'm going to add them again, just like the sample, just for ease. There we go. We'll put that one in the upper right. And then we have our 2 smaller ones. Like so. I'm going to put this one here in the lower left corner. And then add this one just above it here. All right, now we have all of the fun stuff left, right? Now we get to actually put together our very first Grinch of the entire day. How exciting is that, right? All right, so we're gonna go back to our little bag of tricks here. We actually went ahead and put Grinch in his own little baggie. Again, he's got a lot of tiny little pieces. We wanted to make sure nothing got lost for you. So all of his pieces should be all here easily in this one baggie. I'm going to pull them all out. Again, there's some really, really tiny pieces. His eyes are quite small, and the tip of his Santa hat. So make sure you have all of those pieces there. All right, I'm going to ink all of these pieces first, and then we can start adhering everything together. So again, my general rule of thumb is you want to go a couple shades darker with the ink than the paper itself. So you can kind of guess the colors that we're going to use along the way here. So we have our palm tree, and this is going to be used for our Grinch's body. I'm going to go just above his feet. My palm tree here is about dead, and I think I have said that now for the last 3 glasses. So at some point I really need to replace him. So I'm going to go really, really heavy-handed to make sure that that green shows up. I'm just barely going to ink his fragile little hands there. Again, when there's a little teeny piece like that, don't take your ink all the way around, because then you're going to change the entire surface of the color. This will give you kind of the gradation between the 2 shades. And then on the Grinch's face, I'm just going to go on one cheek and then kind of down into the neck there. All right. For the fur trim here, so we have in our embossed dot here, it's in the white, we have the trim for his hat and for his shirt. I inked that with Seabrook, but really any really light blue, ice would work, which is a really light gray. Any of those really light colors. The good thing about white is you can ink it and really make it accented in any color, obviously because it's white as our base. And again, if you notice, I'm not going all the way around the pieces. I'm just kind of doing accents of the pieces here. I'm kind of like imagining where the shadow would fall if there was kind of like a spotlight on our Grinch, kind of where that shadow would naturally fall. So for our red pieces, again, in that glorious embossed dot, I'm going to use Bloody Mary. I'm going to go along the top of his hat. And then on his shirt. So I'm going to go along the base here and kind of up his right side. All right, so now that all of the pieces are inked, I'm going to go ahead and put him all together. Now there's a couple ways you can do this. You can go ahead and lay all of the pieces here. That way you make sure that it's all kind of in its right place before permanently adhering it to that black there. But since I have the sample right beside me, I am just going to go ahead and go for it. All right, we want to make sure that we have just that tiny black border that's going to show all the way around. And I'm just going to work my way up. As I was saying earlier, if you're ever worried about keeping caught up with the class, the best thing I would suggest is to have all of these little pieces pre-inked and pre-adhered. I think you will notice that that will save a lot of time during the actual class itself if you want to craft along as the class is being shown live. If you weren't able to get this kit the very first time that it was offered on our website, we are going to totally remake this one. That doesn't happen often with us where we go back and repeat a design. You typically, once it's sold out, know that it's gone forever. We do wish, man, that there were 48 hours in a day and that we could push our bodies to make more. But that's not always feasible. But this is feasible this time. I'm so excited that you are so excited about this year's crop theme. So we have doubled the production and we are going to make even more of these. So you can still get it. They are still on our website. And you can pre-order these. Know that we won't even start the production until the first of the year. And our kits are time consuming for us to produce. Obviously, look at all of these little teeny pieces here. Look at that. That is the nose. That is the Grinch's nose. Such a tiny, tiny piece. And we try to be so extra cautious that every piece is always there. So our kits do take a while to produce. So give us till March at the absolute latest. Our goal is to have these all out by February. All right, so we have our, make sure I have that in the right direction. The tip of our Santa hat. Like so. Also, we will be monitoring these classes all day long. So as you, maybe you're going to put it together once this demonstration video is over, know that you are still welcome to comment. And Deanna and I plan to be working in the office and here to answer your questions the entire time of the event. And obviously we'll be able to answer your questions thereafter as well. Don't ever hesitate. That's the joy of working with a small business like ours, is that we are here to help answer your questions. and to kind of provide, you know, the expertise knowledge for the questions that you might have as you're putting all of this stuff together. Also, give us some love. So as you see us putting these class demonstrations on, don't forget to hit the little heart button. Show us you're here. Show us that you're watching the videos. I'm said it a million times, no exaggeration. I really have the most amazing team that produces all of your kits. So be sure to kind of give them some love as we're putting all of this together here. See what I mean about those tiny, tiny pieces? Oops, I just mismatched the eyes there. Caught it in time. It's so tiny. I had it right to begin with. How funny is that? You would think since I've already done it once, I could figure out how to do it again, right? All right. Let's see how this eye is gonna go. There we go. Perfect. And then we have this itty bitty little tiny little speck of nothing that's gonna serve as his tiny nose. Kudos to the employee member who put these together. Look at all of those pieces. Just incredible. All right, voila, our Grinch is all complete. I'm just gonna go ahead and put all of the rest of these die cuts together here. So in our baggie, we have our candy cane, which does have 3 layers here. The white is the very bottom layer, and then the gray. So I'm gonna go ahead and adhere the gray layer. Like so. You can kind of tell where it's going to go because it's going to form to our white layer. And then of course our red. See how well the embossed dot paper cuts on the die cutting machines? Such a beautiful crisp cut there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and adhere these 2 pieces since I'm going to do it just like the sample. So I'm going to run some adhesive on my candy cane and down our Grinch. All right, and if my Grinch is going about there, and I know then that my candy cane is going to go about there. All right, see how it already comes to life. I just love all of the layers. It's a lot of work on our end, but man, I just think it's so worth it in the end. Our arrows do have a couple layers here. And I did ink these as well. So we have 2. So I did ink, obviously, I'm gonna ink the green palm tree there for our green arrow. For this, I'm just going to ink the pink layer because that's really the one that you're going to see on top there, and I inked that with the strawberry milkshake. Like so. And I'm going to adhere the pink layer there to our teal. All right, you're more than welcome to use 3D like dimensional foam squares to adhere these arrows. If you don't mind lumpy pages, I would put some of the foam squares there. or obviously you can lay them flush just as they are now. Also in your kit, you have an entire pack of alphabet stickers. So the Whoville and the Grinch's layer are all from this sticker sheet here. So you are welcome to change that to absolutely anything you can dream up. You can put your names, you can put the year, you can put the location. With this entire sheet, you can absolutely put anything that works for your photos there. Can you even imagine if those were die cuts? I think I might have a few staff members who would actually quit. All right, I'm going to intertwine these just a little. Just like that. All right, we're almost there. All right, who among you is 100% Grinch? Maybe you need to turn and look towards a spouse, maybe? I'm not saying that, I'm saying that from experience. All right, we have one last ink color that we haven't used yet, and that is Aloha. This is what I used the Aloha ink for. So we have our teal kind of fluff ball there, those scalloped borders. And I'm just gonna go all the way around the edges for this one. And ink all of that seafoam color. This is gonna go right in the center of our white, and of course that is the embossed dot cardstock. I always say I'm about using, our kits have so many pieces, I like to use as few additional products as possible. I love that this is already embossed for us and that we don't have to do the embossing and we don't have to have that embossing machine. It's bought just like that, and it costs exactly the same as the canvas and as the glimmer. All right, so let's put that about there. Then we have our 100% Grinch. Know that the red layer is going to go underneath our black layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to put just a tiny bit of adhesive just under the 100%. And then I'm going to line these pieces up here. You're not really crafting if you don't have glue and ink all over your fingers, right? I'm a mom to 3 boys. I don't think I would know what to do with myself if there wasn't a little dirt everywhere. All right, so we have our 100% Grinch. And then don't forget, on our 2 zeros here, we should have that black layer as well. That's going to go in the center of each of those. Okay, and the last one. Get just a tad more there. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull out our pink bow. We also have these 2 swirls here. One is slightly larger than the other one, so the larger one's going to go in the very lower right corner. So the larger one in the lower right corner. I'm going to just barely slip it underneath that circle there. Like so. And our last swirly swirl here. These are actually from the Disney collection. That's probably why I love them so much, right? But I think they also look very Seussian. All right, and then we have our bow, and our bow is going to go directly on top of our little 100% here, little ornament. So add just a little bit of adhesive on the back, and of course that is the shimmer collection there. Okay. The gold star that's in the center of our bow is from our sticker sheet. So that's going to go like that. Now we're down to the final 2 die cuts, and then we're going to have our first project all complete. So we have the little pom-poms, and of course this was, if you remember Horton Hears a Who, this is where the Whos live, right inside of these. Fun little pom-poms here. So I'm going to use the pumpkin pie, and I'm just going to go, just kind of lightly go around one edge there. There's like no exact kind of way. Just kind of throw some ink on there. I'm going to add this pom-pom. Make sure they do specifically go to one or the other, so make sure that you have them attached to their correct shadow there, their correct base. All right, so the last thing we need to do is adhere these 2 pieces, and then we have a couple stickers to go, and we're all done. I'm only going to put adhesive on the large portion there. Let me make sure I have them right. See, you're probably yelling at me. That's not the right one, Andrea. It goes the other way. Thank you for that warning. I appreciate it. All right. And we have our double tree here. Again, look how Seussian that looks. I love that we were able to find so many papers and stickers that had that just touch of pink. That worked so perfect here with our Grinchmas. And again, you were yelling at me, weren't you? You forgot a sticker, Andrea. Don't go on to the next page. This one's not done. All right. There we go. And you did it. Our very first Grinch class is all complete. I'd love to see yours as you're completing it, especially if you get the photos on. Snap a little photo. Put it inside this demo class video. Thanks. See you back here in a minute.